So you think you've mastered CV and cover letters, right? You've spent hours formatting, tailoring, networking, and even getting a referral, but somehow you still get rejected before the interview stage. And what most of you don't realize is you didn't fail the CV, you actually failed the online test. If you don't score in that top 5 or 10 or top quartile on that online test, you're never gonna make it to that real human interview, no matter how strong your credentials are. And in this video, I'll show you exactly what consulting firms are testing in these assessments, why smart applicants still fail them, and how to prepare strategically for the top 3 consulting firms' online assessments. And by the end, you'll know how to move from filtered out to interview ready. Hey guys, this is Jack. Welcome back to my channel, and this is part 3 of How to Break into Consulting series. In part 2, we covered CVs and cover letters, which is the part that gets you noticed. But what most candidates don't realize is that being noticed is not good enough. Firms need an objective filter, right? Specifically a quantitative one, just to decide which one of the candidates they want to invite for an interview. And that filter, guys, is the online test. And so in today's agenda, I'm going to walk you through 3 things. First of all, what type of tests exist for these top consulting firms. Second of all, what they're actually measuring. And lastly, how to prepare that puts you in the top quartile, which is the band that actually matters. All right, so now that you understand why online tests matter, let's break down the 3 major types of assessment you'll face depending on the firm you're applying to, because they're not all the same, and preparing for the wrong type is exactly how people fail. First up, we have McKinsey. McKinsey doesn't give you a traditional test, right? Instead, they give you what looks like a game called Solve, but don't be fooled because this is a cognitive diagnostic, not a Candy Crush. There will be 2 common modules that you face with a time limit of 70 minutes, the ecosystem building one and the resource management one. And there can be more, but these are the 2 that are well known for now. What McKinsey is actually scoring is how you think, right? They don't just care about the final answer. They analyze every move you make, your sequencing, your trade-off, and how structured your problem-solving approach is. So if you come in with a let me click randomly until I find the right pattern mentality, you're gonna fail. The game is evaluating your process and not your luck. So here are the main type of modules you'll encounter and a step-by-step guide on how to solve each question style. First, we have the ecosystem building game. Scenario is you select a location and choose a certain number of species like plants or animals to create a stable ecosystem with correct calorie flows, predator-prey relationships, and environment constraints. What McKinsey is testing you in this game is 3 things. First is system syncing. So how you can create a working system where different pieces such as species, environment, food chain, etc. interact with no conflict. Second is decision-making skills under pressure, because you must pick a subset of items within a time and resource constraint. And lastly, your process, so your selection logic, note-taking, and whether you eliminated the wrong choices. So here's an overly simplified 3-step approach to solving this game for now, as I'll make a separate longer video and a more detailed guide later on. Step 1 is to pick the location, a terrain, or an environment that gives favorable base conditions, such as one with good producer species or low predator calorie needs. Step 2 is choose a strong producer with high calories provided. This ensures that the base of the food chain is really strong, guys. And then you can select the consumers with low calorie needs and high provided calories again. And lastly, you choose the apex predators carefully, i.e. lowest calories needs, for instance, so you don't break that chain. Step 3 is run the eating rule, right? So predators eat prey. Prey must have calories provided greater than needed, etc. And if you fail, just adjust your selections. The pro tip here, guys, is to use Excel or pen and paper to track calories, ignore the irrelevant species, and almost pick up by groups. So if you have 39 species, you can have 3 groups of 13 to reduce the selection space. Second game is the business scenario game. An example of this is the Red Rock case where you have wolf packs and elk populations. You must optimize numbers so wolves and elks and plants coexist sustainably. There are several parts to this game, which include investigation, such as extracting data, analysis, which is calculating the answers, reporting, which is filling the blanks and choosing a chart, and then finally answering multiple choice and short answer questions. What McKinsey is testing here is your data interpretation skills and speed, structured problem solving skills, so how do you go from investigation to analysis, and then reporting, and finally answering the associated question. Also, you're tested on your use of charts and graph, as well as how well you perform mental math under time pressure. And lastly, guys, process matters too. So they track how you extract the key data and what you choose to prioritize. Now, again, here's an overly simplified 4-step approach to solving this game. Step 1 is to skim all provided data fast, identify the objective, e.g. optimizing wolves so the ecosystem is stable, and then capture in on-screen journal only relevant data. Step 2 is to do calculations using provided the on-screen calculator. I mean, they track your usage, right? So don't overuse it, but also don't do large mental math because, that could be a potential risk. Step 3 is for reporting. Pick chart type based on the question aim. So is it trend? Is it comparison? Is it composition? You need to have a clear logic for choosing the chart. And step 4, for the final question on multiple choice or numerical questions, time pressure means you must prioritize. So if you can't derive a full calculation, then quickly just go for elimination method instead. The pro tip here, guys, is to practice via some, GMAT integrated reasoning, mental math. Become comfortable with sort of charts like pie, line, bar charts, stack bar charts, and also practice note-taking and drag-drop journal entries very quickly. To recap, guys, what you must do to solve the McKinsey solve is A, prioritize data, so ignore irrelevant details. B, track your decisions via pen and paper or notes to reflect your reasoning. C, be comfortable with incomplete information because you must decide under uncertainty. And D, time management is crucial, so submit something rather than get stuck and fail to finish. Since process and score both matter, not just the right answers, you have to optimize for how you solve it, not just what you solve. And lastly, guys, just familiarize yourself with the game format via simulation platforms so you have no surprises when you get to the game, right? I've linked some, practice resources in my descriptions below, so definitely check it out. Now let's move on to Bain because this one is completely different from McKinsey. We've learned that McKinsey test is a game-based test and measures the thinking approach. Bain, on the contrary, uses SOVA, which is the classic aptitude and judgment test, and it measures speed, accuracy, and fit. Most candidates underestimate it because it looks like a normal test that you get, but what Bain really is screening for is, can you think like a consultant under time pressure while not being a jerk to work with? Now, there are 5 parts in the Bain online test. First is the numerical reasoning. This is where your quantitative skill sets are tested, and you'll be presented with things like business math, commercial charts, and have to perform calculations such as percentage changes and ratio analysis. The second is verbal reasoning. This is when you get given short passages with information, and you have to deduce a conclusion using logical assumptions. Third is logical and inductive reasoning. Honestly, guys, this is what I found the most difficult. It's almost similar to the Mensa IQ test that I did, and it's basically identifying patterns and rules on a shape. Fourth is work style and personality test. This is fairly simple, and it's just trying to gauge whether you fit into Bain and whether your values align with Bain's cultural values. And lastly, you have the situational judgment, right? This is a series of team and client-based scenario questions to test your decision-making skills as well as your judgment abilities. And now that you've understood the 5 parts, let's actually go into the 5 key tips on preparing for the Bain online test. Firstly, for numerical reasoning, rapid mental math is important. If you're writing out 5 calculation steps, you're already kind of behind, guys. You want to get good at eyeballing ratios and the percentage changes to get to the answer as quickly as possible. Most of these questions are designed to not require accurate math, but rather your ability to process information quickly. Next, for verbal reasoning, you should almost see it like a mini case in the sense that you should isolate who the stakeholder is, what the objective is, and what evidence actually supports the conclusion, because this is exactly how your interviewer will expect you to think later on. And third, we have the logical reasoning. For this, usually time is lost not in solving, but in figuring out what game you're playing. Ask yourself this question immediately, like, what is the transformation pattern? You don't need to calculate the full answer. Once you see the governing rule, eliminate the obviously wrong 50%. That's how you save 20 to 30 seconds per question, which is everything you need in an adaptive test. Also, guys, Bain tests are known to increase in complexity, which is why candidates say, oh, it was easy at first and then suddenly it became so impossible, right? The objective is not to get every single question right. It is to progress far enough into the adaptive chain that Bain scores you a top quartile. Prep-wise, you could utilize SHL-style abstract reasoning test, Capfinity reasoning test, SOVA official practice, if you can get some sample packs, as well as some IQ tests as well. The correct mental approach during this test is to spot the rule quickly, eliminate, confirm, and move on. If you try to overanalyze, you are going to run out of time, so These tests don't reward perfection, guys. They reward sustained top quartile performance. So remember that. And then for a situational judgment test, the preparation is the same with any other consulting firm you'll be applying for. These type of tests reward a structure. So firstly, clarify, collaborate, decide, and take ownership. So no cowboy behavior, no ego, guys. Just think of yourself in the shoe of a consultant and carefully think about what you would do in that situation. And lastly, you must practice under strict time pressure. Most people know how to solve the questions, but they can't solve them fast. Given that the Bain filter is heavily on speed and consistency, you kind of need to catch both, guys. Now, let's talk about BCG because this one confuses candidates the most. Why? Because BCG doesn't have one global standardized test. They use different assessment based on office and recruiting pipeline, but they all kind of measure the same thing, which is, can you think in a structured and hypothesis-driven, data-backed way, which is the way that the BCG consultants actually solve cases. So depending on which region you're applying to, you'll face one of these three: BCG potential test, BCG KC, or the Pymetrics test. And let's break them down quickly. First is the BCG potential test, right? The classic consulting aptitude test. This is basically a consulting case in a multiple choice format, and you'll get given between 25-ish questions and have 45 minutes to answer all of them. There will be business exhibits and charts, and you must build hypothesis like in a case interview to solve these questions. What they are looking for, guys, is whether you can zoom in on the most relevant data, eliminate the noise, and interpret charts like a consultant. Pro tip here, guys, is that unlike at Bain, this test is not speed first, it is accuracy and reasoning first. Next, you have the BCG KC, the chatbot case interview. This one feels like a mini case interview, but instead of speaking to a human, you're answering to an AI chatbot. So the format is as follows. You get a business scenario, you ask clarifying questions, you type your reasoning, and some offices also can add a video recorded answer section to make it a bit harder. I mean, the KC itself is designed to measure your problem solving, structuring, clarification, communication, and business judgment skills, right? This is the closest simulation of a real BCG case and most commonly used across offices. I would say that you almost want to ace this test to even get given the opportunity to interview with a consultant. I mean, if you can't tackle simple case questions against an AI, do you deserve to proceed to the next round? Maybe not. Lastly, there is the Pymetrics test, which is a behavioral gamified test. This is less about problem solving and more about risk tolerance, memory, impulse control, and collaboration style. And you'll essentially be matched statistically to the behavioral fingerprint of a successful BCG hire and see whether you have those qualities or not. Now, most candidates prep the BCG test in a wrong way, right? They practice math or logic or random case prompts, but BCG is actually testing case structuring and data prioritization, especially for the KC, right? Your preparation should look like this. Step 1 is to practice structuring mini cases in 30 seconds so you get very good at understanding what the problem is, what the likely lever is to pull, what hypothesis is most likely, and what data you need to support your hypothesis. And step 2 is to train graph literacy under time pressure. Remember, guys, this is not a school-style chart reading. Instead, you need to instantly be able to spot, okay, what metric actually matters in this chart, what direction is the chart moving, what are the trends, and what is the implication for the business itself. Step 3 is to practice short written justification, right? They're not just testing you for you to be a copywriter. Instead, they want a structured and clear answer from you. For instance, you could say, the key driver is X, supported by Y, and therefore Z is the most logical next step. The pro tip here, guys, is I would say just pick one chart from any consulting casebook you have. Give yourself 30, 45 seconds and try to answer the so what question in one sentence, as that's literally the BCG test in a nutshell. Now guys, I know I've covered the MBB test specifically in this video, but principles are the same even if you were doing an online test for other consulting firms, right? What they look for is whether you have the quantitative, analytical, and logical skill sets to succeed as a consultant. And if you perform well in an online interview, it can even supplement your slightly weaker CV. Alright, let's quickly recap before we wrap this up, right? McKinsey is testing systems thinking and resource allocation through the solve game. Bain is testing raw accuracy and mental stamina through SOVA's reasoning and psychometric elements. BCG is testing structured judgment. Basically, can you think like a consultant without an interviewer guiding you? And finally, guys, even if you have the perfect CV and even if your networking is strong, you won't even see an interviewer if you fail the online test. So prepare for those tests, because if you're not in the top quartile, it doesn't really matter how good your CV is or how many referrals you got. Think of it this way, guys. The CV gets you in the airport, but then the online tests are the security. You might have the nicest passport in the world, but if you don't pass security, well, you're never getting on that flight. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you found this video helpful and insightful, please leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video where I'll be sharing more insider tips on how to break into consulting.